welcome everybody.
Welcome everyone.
Welcome everybody. Welcome everybody to Breaching the Boardroom podcast,
where leadership, growth, and strategy come together. Each episode features straight talk conversations with industry leaders and innovators who share how they navigate a fast-moving world while keeping their businesses on track.
In 2026, resilience, not perfection, will separate those organizations that survive disruption from those that won't.
Now because of AI, they can do so much recon on everybody, right? They don't need to hack systems. They can just hack people. If they can know we all have essentially dossiers on us, right? They scrape all of our social media, all of our Reddit comments, everything you've put online can be traced back to you, and they can create an entire dossier on you. And so that when they reach out, they're going to say and pretend to be somebody that you trust. Mrs. Buttermaker over in the third floor cubicle with her 32 browser tabs open, clicking on links like it's a Olympic sport. When that happens, right?
Just because someone has a title that's bigger than you, don't assume that they're smarter than you, and don't assume that you have to bow down to that title. You know what your business is, you know what you're about, and you need to be able to respectfully hold people accountable, whatever the role is. And that was another
that's a really good advice. Yeah. That's really good advice. And that ties into the leading from any job title, right? I've had people on my team that are clear leaders and other people have bigger titles than them and they're not leading the group, right? And I'm always impressed by organizations when they will listen and follow the better advice, right? Or the better idea, because to me, that's what should govern. If it is a better idea, go with the idea. It doesn't matter that a junior person came up with the idea. Put the ego aside and let's go with the better idea. So many people think, well, if I click on a phishing email or if I get social engineered, that's a breach. It's well, that's an incident, right? That's an unauthorized access. It's not necessarily a breach. And it also means once they are in for a while, undetected,
when we look at the key thing with detection of deception is if I ask you a yes or no question, I should get a yes or no answer, and I should get it in a timely fashion. And if I don't, that's a red flag. And when I say red flag, it's just a follow-up. It's not you're instantly lying. But if I say, did you shoot that man? I shouldn't hear, did I shoot that man?
Yeah.
I should hear yes or no. And when I don't hear yes or no, if I hear repeat the question, if I hear long latency, so latency or delay is one of the first things that I look at. If you go no, and then there's no, and then vocal inflection is sometimes tied in with that. If I ask my daughter, if I say, Sydney, did you clean your room? Yes. Okay. Well, that's a yes. That's do you believe me, Dad? Right. And I'm going to follow it up. Or liars lie specifically.
Can I still go out? Is what she's saying.
Or they lie specifically. Well, she had to get her homework done before she goes out. And I say, did you get all your homework done? I got my math homework done.
It's not the whole truth. And that's
so she's not lying. She did get her math homework done.
AI is unlike other technologies because the more you sandbox it and kind of clamp it down, the more creativity can happen, right? I mean, when you know that it's safe and you know that it's a sandboxed environment, then you can create agents and workflows and get really experimental in the development.
The truth is that you can't audit, you can't govern what you can't see, right?
Yeah.
Having everybody under the same platform. Let's forget the fact that, in a platform like Hatch, you get access to 60 plus different large language models. If you can't see what those agentic tools and what those tools are doing with different data that you have inside of your organization, you can't prove return on investment. You can't make sure that data is being used in the correct way. Compliance becomes a lot more difficult because, again, I have no clue what David is doing with AI today, because I don't have access to his personal ChatGPT account. So if he's out there putting confidential data in, I don't know what that looks like. I don't know what the output of that looks like. And it's really hard for me to even prove that that's happening in the first place.
And I know everyone's sick of AI, but with AI, I can write code, right? I don't have to be a software developer anymore. I wonder how,
just tell it.
One of my late night musings is I would wonder if anyone has quantified the impact of AI on the dark market.
Oh, that's a really good
point. Yeah.
That's a really interesting question.
Because instead of buying it and having to share my profits, why don't I just, spin up Claude code and write it myself?
Wow. I've got Claude on right here. I might just.
Yeah, I know.
That's not what we want to do.
No,
but
it's not what we want.
Yeah.
But it's really easy for attackers to use legitimate tools.
Yeah, absolutely.
It really it is very easy for them to use legitimate tools.
What do you picture when we say the word hacker? Like some kid in his mom's basement drinking Red Bull, cracking code, like eating Hot Pockets. Like that's what he's probably a Fortnite champion. Like that is what you think of. That's not who it is. It's more Sopranos than iRobot.
It is fairly trivial for me to take a phone, turn on ChatGPT, and then just have that in front of me as I'm talking to you where you can't see it in frame. And as you're asking questions, I've set it up to where it's receiving that voice input and formulating answers for me that I'm just kind of reading or riffing off of at the time. Whether you have an actual imposter that's trying to pretend somebody to be somebody else, or whether you have a real person with a real identity who really wants that job, but they're faking their knowledge. We're kind of dealing with a lot of the same things, right?
IBM's cost of a data breach report this year found something specific. Companies with significant uncontrolled AI use paid substantially more per data breach than companies with a governed AI environment. The average cost of a U.S. data breach last year was over $9 million. It's slightly less for small to mid-sized businesses, but it's still higher than it's ever been in history. For context, an AI governance training program for a small to mid-sized company doesn't cost $9 million, doesn't even cost $1. Proactive investment is never the expensive option. It just feels that way right up until the alternative shows up in your inbox as a lawyer's discovery request.
What did the buffalo say to his son when he dropped him off at school? Bye, son. It's so bad, but you had to do something to get the mood change in the room.
When we finally opened on April 9th, 2001, we were an overnight sensation. And the one line that we heard over and over and over again was, we had no idea that this is what you were talking about.
The recent and modern advice is really good. It's like, stop trying to figure it out. Like, you don't have to tell whether something is a phishing email. It's going to come right from the vendor that you know. The link will look good to you. There won't be grammar issues. It'll speak in the language of the person. Like, it is going to be really good. Ask instead what it's asking you to do. Ever notice how hiring feels like the one thing that's still supposed to be human? We handle the cybersecurity for a client who recently posted a remote job. And they got 14 resumes and interviews set up in the first week. But more than a third of them used stolen credentials and weren't who they claimed to be. They were deep fakes. Fake audio, fake voice, real-time AI generating a human on your screen who doesn't exist. They had perfect resumes. They answered questions. They were good. Really good. And that's the problem. You can't spot a deepfake anymore. The video is flawless. The voice is flawless. The lag is gone. So stop trying to detect it. It's a losing game. Ask a different question. What are they trying to get me to do? Send an offer letter, wire a deposit, hand over system access? See, the message will be perfect. The video will be perfect. The only thing AI cannot fake is a human being standing in a room. So verify the person, not the call, not the email, not the video. Find them through a means you know is trustworthy and real, not one they hand you. Like a coworker who knows them, a number you looked up yourself. At the end of the day, the technology is flawless now, so your process has to be too.
We suffer from what I call the human blind spot. The human blind spot is our psychological instinct to trust what is familiar to us. It is that cognitive gap where biological trust, and that's what we have this biological trust that overrides digital suspicion. And it leaves the door wide open for all kinds of fraud.
AI is no longer just a tool that organizations are experimenting with. It's actively shaping how attacks are launched and how defenses respond. In 2026, we're seeing AI used to scale attacks faster and make them more convincing. This creates a very real arms race that business leaders need to understand.
A lot of the attackers are using AI to automate their phishing and malware generation, making the attacks more efficient and harder to detect. Old school AV platforms and old school social awareness training simply can't keep up with how advanced these attacks are presenting themselves to their potential victims.
I literally got an email from the Prince of Nigeria, and I had printed it out, had it on my wall, and I was like, "But when you walk in my office, I am royalty. I'm just letting you know. Prince of Nigeria said I am related.
Nice.
He just needs me to give him my." I used to have it on my wall. I swear to God.
What's changed over the past 30 years is that criminal hackers are, I guess, as they say, sophisticated, but really what they are is organized.
Correct. I mean, it's more about organized crime than anything else. I mean, there are layers now. You know what I mean? Like different agents have different roles, and they do that. One group will handle money laundering, one group will handle this, and there's a lot of funding behind all of it, and it is that to me is the sophistication. What they do and how they do it to us, it hasn't really changed that much. Maybe the mediums have changed, but it's still the same way you were mugged as a kid.
Exactly.
Like it's still, right? It's not that complicated.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
I always scoff whenever I see like it's a sophisticated phishing attempt. I'm like, no, it's not. It's a freaking email that somebody clicked on. Like that's not sophisticated, right?
The sophistication aspect is the scale at which they operate.
Yeah.
And the fact that they treat fraud as a business. That's the sophistication aspect of it.
And I've said this so many times. It's not just the right thing to do to be engaged in your community and supportive of things that matter. It's also good business. Now, there is just absolutely no question that whatever investment you make into your community comes back to you so many-fold. And, you can't even figure out what your ROI on it is because it's infinite. But what we do know through observation and other operations and things that we've been engaged in, if you don't do that, you don't, for whatever the magic potion is, you don't have the success, the business success that comes along hand in hand parallel to that.
Here's the thing. Most AI security conversations skip over completely. It's not just what your employees paste into AI tools. It's what they connect. A connector links an AI account to another service. Think Gmail, Drive, Slack, Outlook, things like that. Once it's connected, the AI can read and act on everything inside that service. Connect your work, Outlook, or Gmail to a personal AI account, and you've just piped your company's entire inbox into a tool your company has no contract with, no legal agreement with, and no visibility into whatsoever. In 2025, security researchers proved twice that a connected AI account can be hijacked by the content that it reads. It's prompt injection. And they call that connection and that risk the lethal trifecta. It's got access to private data, exposure to outside content that you don't control, and the ability to send information back out.
So we're doing a search warrant on an individual that's downloading child sexual abuse material. So we're doing the search warrant. And I always like to, after I do the search warrant, walk through the house to try to get a good idea of what makes these people tick. But my partner and I come into the kitchen and we see the Chihuahua and we see the Pit Bull. And there's obviously stereotypes according to those animals. So we affix the
One would think
horns.
the stereotype being the Chihuahua's not going to bother me. I've got to watch out for the Pit Bull, right?
One would think, right? So as my front sight focus is on that Pit Bull, the Chihuahua starts creeping and creeping and creeping, and thanks to Duluth Trading Company and their fire hose material pants, shout out to them, the Chihuahua jumped up and got a mouthful of between my legs, and he latched on, and I had to holster up. My partner's laughing at me. I think the pit bull's probably laughing at me because his toady is now taking care of business. But it was one of those things where that's confirmation bias.
It's ironic because unlike other technologies, AI actually explodes and becomes more creative the more you clamp it down. Leadership oftentimes calls us the department of no, right? Because like, hey, we want to roll this out. No, it's going to be a big security risk. Hey, we want to do this. No, let's do it. Let's wait on that until we test it and vet it out. With AI, by clamping it down, you're actually creating more creativity and more freedom. One of my favorite analogies is the shark in the water. Let me tell you the story. So we go and we are out swimming. You know, all the people from work, we're all out swimming, right? Somebody sees fins, they scream shark. Is it a dolphin? Is it a shark? I know I'm not going to wait around and find out. I'm going to start swimming to shore. The truth is, I cannot outswim a shark. We are not going to outswim that shark, just like we will not ever defeat the Mossad, CIA, CCP, cybercrime, organized cybercrime. Like, if they wanted to get us, they can get us. So how do we make ourselves a moving target?
I was actually really frustrated in that moment, not with CNN, but the fact that every deepfake detector that I tried, and this is a few months ago, so I've not repeated the test since then. Every one that I tried had fundamental errors, and if I intentionally tried to bypass them, I could. But then also, many of the things that broke them were unintentional things that I did, where I was like testing a real video and seeing, and like the real video would come up as fake. It's like, well, that's bad. And then I would try to make one that was obviously fake, and it would show up as being real.
It's not your mom's responsibility. It's not your mentor's responsibility. Your career path is your responsibility. And to get to where you want to go, first you have to understand where you want to go, and then you have to proactively outreach to gather the information of what your career path will need to be in order to get there. And don't expect that just because you work at a Fortune 100 company they're going to guide you on the right path. You have to take ownership of that. And that has always stuck with me, and I've shared that. And if I distilled it down, if something is to be, it's going to be me. Like, it's going to happen because I'm making it happen, not because I'm just letting something happen to me. You have to be in the driver's seat of your own career.
If you can fix the mindset towards security, you can go leaps and bounds towards, not that you won't ever get breached. Everybody gets breached.
It's the whole change of perception of when a patient has the anchor on "I'll never be the same" versus "I'm going to get back to my life." It completely changes the outcome.
Even though we're all emotional, if we develop the disciplines to take a beat, when you're working in their vector, in their target vector, and they've just elicited an emotion from you on your phone, before you act, you take a beat. You go to maybe to a second source. There's these strategies that a reasonable person takes, but a reasonable person is not an automatic person. A rational person is the opposite of that.
It's the best tool that consumers have available to them right now to basically inoculate yourself. It's a vaccine for your identity. You know, your social security number is out there. We've got viruses all around us all the time, right? And so the credit freeze locks down your social security number in such a way that the lenders can't see your credit scores when they receive an application for credit, and thereby basically, making you immune to various forms of new account fraud. Now, certainly your social can be used in other ways, but you become a tougher target once you have a credit freeze. And this is a relatively easy process. It used to be a small fee, and it required you to send in paperwork. Today, it's all done online or in some cases over the phone, and it can be done generally in less than 10 minutes per bureau. And now you have control.
AI was not just another software or another tool. It was becoming a new way of business and how businesses operate. From a leadership standpoint, the question stopped being, should I pay attention to this? And it shifted to, how do we make sure that we're using this in a way that actually improves speed, improves decision making and increases capacity without creating additional risk. We made the investment because we believe AI is going to reshape how companies get work done. By the time we're finished with this conversation, something has already changed and moved forward in this space. And so it's happening right now.
And so they would, a business owner or a CEO of a business shows up, and if they want to, I will respect everyone the exact same way, but respect is both, I will give it freely, but then it gets earned. And yes, your behavior, and going back to Verizon, so I was a global account manager, and a data center is out in China, and some CIO of some company would be calling me, and I'd be answering the phone in the middle of the night, and they'd be yelling, and I'd be like, Scott, I'm going to hang up now. And when you calm down and you want to have a respectful conversation, call me back. And I'd hang up the phone, and that would happen a couple more times usually. And then on like the third time, he'd be calmed down and be like, oh, okay, I'm ready to have a conversation. I'm like, okay, great. Let's talk about what we can do to help you out.
So we talked about security culture. You can take the security culture survey. I had a customer in Europe who used to pay an outside consulting firm 150,000 euros a year. He said, I canceled that because now I just give my security culture. I've gotten more data from this. I can benchmark against my industry, against my local, again, for my size. I can actually see, where is my security culture moving? Where are my weak points? Where do I need to address? In a 10-minute survey that I send out as a scientific instrument, as opposed to, bringing someone in to do a bunch of interviews, interrupt workflows, and then come back with sort of nebulous things I maybe could do.
And more like a snapshot in time or something
exactly
just generic. This is actually interactive, evergreen, constantly evolving.
What we discovered was that if you did a good job in your fan service, if the beer was cold, if the hot dogs were hot, if the entertainment on the field was great, and you were fan-centric, the fans, as it turned out in those 3-week survey in Chattanooga, 51% of them did not know who won the damn game. 51%. And didn't care. And over 60% of them did not know that they had just seen a Cincinnati Reds affiliate. They didn't really know what they were watching. And over 72% did not know the classification of baseball they had just watched. Many answers, we got answers all over the board, including Little League, Major League, Japanese League. There was a team that came through that had a couple of Japanese players and one Korean. And so, some of the fans said we must have been watching Japanese ball. It was crazy. We came back with all that information with the confidence that if we did it right, we could be successful in Lexington.
The data doesn't support that AI is actually taking a lot of jobs. It's not, right? The data doesn't support it. It does apply to almost everybody. It will save, when rolled out properly, it will save a percentage of the people that embrace it and that use it. It'll allow them to be a lot more productive. And that in turn will mature, and leadership and executive leadership teams will be expecting more from their workers because we have greater capacity.
As far as being an active listener, your listeners need to do this. We can listen at 500 words per minute. That's why people could listen to this podcast at 2 times speed. But we speak at about 150 words per minute. Therefore, we become lazy and we think, what should I say? When should I say it? Whatever the case may be. When you're listening, I want you to think of like machine gun tracer fire. And I want you to think of every 5th word. I want you to repeat it in your head. And when you do that, you realize, wow, I'm really engaged in this conversation. It causes you to shut up too. Good communication is like good podcasting. We do our prep on the front end. You read the book. You meet me in the green room for 5-10 minutes. That's our first impression. You let the other person talk 80% of the time. You follow it up. You keep up the guardrails. If I go down a rabbit hole, you pull me back. You advocate for me. That's good communication, and it's good podcast.
Setting up a sandbox environment where you're keeping everything controlled is the best way to start. If you're going to do any experimentation in AI, don't just do it publicly. We already mentioned utilizing an enterprise-grade AI tool in your selection of what type of AI to use. Proper DPAs obviously need to be established. Those are data processing agreements that are structured around AIs. That way you're controlling the compliance requirements as well. You want to limit your sandbox accounts, who has access to it. You want to keep it in a very small area of use so that you can control the metrics and control the spread of the information, or eliminate the spread of the information. You want to preload it with dummy synthetic information. You don't want to use your sensitive data that we talked about earlier in the sandboxing so that you can experiment with its findings without any release of sensitive information.
One of the biggest challenges we still see when discussing AI with leadership is they either think it's just a tool, like it's just a tool, it's just a, like any other technical product out there. They just need to roll it out and manage the project like anything else. And then they start running without having full governance, like a whole model that clamps it down, restricts it across the board, but then creates that freedom.
7% of all the people that you're ever going to meet in the course of your life, 97%, in their nature, they are good, meaning that they are worthy of your trust. 97% of the world's population are just good people. However, that also means that as much as, if not more than 3%, are not. And I'm pretty sure it's somewhere between 3 and 6% of the world's population are just no good. The medical community would call them antisocial personality disorders. We would categorize them as being sociopaths and psychopaths.
Yes.
Okay? And those sociopaths and psychopaths, they're the ones that make the most amount of noise. They're the ones that do all the harm. These are humans like you and I that don't experience, like you and I,
Empathy, sympathy,
guilt,
feel remorse.
They literally have no shame. It's that element of society, of humanity, that are the true predators amongst us. There always has been, there is, and there always will be the wolves and the lions.
Yep.
And the rest of us being the gazelles and the rabbits.
And I'm going to generalize and say there's kind of two types of people in the world. There's the ones that are at work and see a problem and they're like, that sucks, not my job. And then there are types of people who are like, that sucks, let's fix it. And I'm one of the let's fix it people. And so I've always throughout my career
I'm glad you said that aloud because people are so hesitant today. I'm older, so I'm not afraid to offend people. And it might get me in trouble, but it also makes things happen, right? And you're absolutely right. The delineation, because I've worked with so many different types of organizations, and I've found there really only are those two types of people, because it doesn't matter what the challenge is. You can either you're either with a group that is like, okay, it's a challenge. It's not about finger pointing. It's about how do we resolve this? How do we sort it? How do we identify it? How do we make sure it doesn't happen again? And come up. And oftentimes the fix can be found. Yeah, I recently almost got phished. Ever notice how the best social engineering is the one that doesn't feel like social engineering? Someone reached out to me on social media asking to be a sponsor for our podcast. It was a big company, a lucrative sponsorship deal. And here's the thing. They'd done their homework. They said things only someone who actually knew us would say. It felt real. Then they sent me a scheduling link to book a call. I don't click links, ever. So I said, just send me your availability and we'll set something up. Then they tried to move me off platform to a texting app, a channel that they control where there's no record, no security, no rules. That was the red flag. Game over. See, these people will research you for hours just to get you to click one single link. They build trust so you lower your guard. Don't click on stuff, ever.
AI is not a substitute for leadership or good operations. It's a multiplier. Like I said, it amplifies whatever kind of business you have already. Having senior leaders that understand the impact of this and are fully behind the process and that will work with us to help drive said process throughout the organization is crucial.
My favorite story of all time is a law firm. You mentioned law firms, and there's many of these stories, and I love them. Again, coming back to being driven by the mission, when people share their stories, where there was a conversation ongoing for a settlement. The settlement was roughly around $1 million. And, we always say assume breach, right? And so the perpetrator, the hacker, was actually in the system already, was in the email, monitoring the conversation, waiting for the best opportunity. And so they started acting odd. They put urgency into the thing. And so the lawyer said, I just taken that training like 30 days ago. I'm going to pick up the phone because this is just, there's a few red flags here that I remember from the training. So she picks up the phone to verify. Lo and behold, on the other end of the line, the other attorney, he had been locked out and said, I haven't been able to get in my email all day.
We don't have perfect people in this corporation. But what I'm looking for is I'm looking for perfectly honest people. And I'm looking for people that when they make a mistake, they accept responsibility for it so that I know that I can trust them moving forward. I'm going to tell you right now, I know that there's been some games played with your annual. And what I would like to believe is you had some situational factors at play that caused you to do something that you normally don't do. And now I'm going to give you the microphone. I just want you to explain me not the what, I just want you to explain me the why.